heard of the Kinsey Report, Masters and Johnson, research done on the topic of sex. Today's topic is about sex. However, we're going to look at it from a different angle. When sex hurts, when it's painful. My guest today is Emily Sauer, CEO and inventor. Emily, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Tell us about your company that you started.
Whew, that's a big question to start with.
Yeah.
The company mission right now is to essentially change the rules of sex so that we can all feel closer.
Okay.
And I've created a product based on personal need that allows anybody to very simply adjust the depth of penetration to help those who have deep pelvic pain during sex.
Okay, what would cause deep pelvic pain?
Woo!
A
lot of things. Well, primarily, painful sex is way more common than we realize. 75% of women will have painful sex in their lifetime.
I was amazed with that statistic when I saw it. 75%.
And that's only women who've previously reported it. Yeah, there's so much taboo and stigma around talking about sexual displeasure, sexual dysfunction, that those numbers are much more higher.
I believe it.
But to your question, what causes deep pelvic pain? It can be endometriosis. They're called adhesions or scar tissue after you have surgery. Fibroids. You can have cysts. There's prolapse. There's all kinds of bladder complications that can cause deep pelvic pain. Oftentimes, it's actually really hard to diagnose what the problem is.
Is it misdiagnosed frequently?
It is misdiagnosed and underdiagnosed very frequently. Endometriosis, for example, it takes an average of 6 to 9 years to get a diagnosis.
Wow.
6 to 9 years.
Is it equally underreported? Women just don't talk about it.
Yeah. Women generally either have sex while they're in pain for the sake of their partner.
Right.
It's really hard to talk about. We've been societally silenced, essentially, into this very shameful space, because so much of the media projects really good sex or mind-blowing, orgasmic. Everything is bigger, better, best.
Right.
And when it's not that, so many people feel isolated in their experience that they're the only one.
Right.
So what comes with that sense of solitude is silence.
Silently suffer. Well, you are addressing this problem. You developed a product. Would you like to tell us about this wearable that you developed?
Yes, and I love that you called it a wearable too, which is fantastic, because it's really important to us that it's not entirely a medical device and it's not a sex toy. What we're doing is creating a new category of products that are focused on the interpersonal experience, on the physical experience that's not necessarily over-eroticized.
I got you. I got you.
With the connection. But so I actually brought it.
I
know you haven't seen it yet. I'm very excited to show you. So here it is. I just want to let you play with it first before I go. Ooh.
Oops, did I break it?
No, it's perfect. So that's the idea, is actually it comes apart.
Oh, so it's a sort of adjustable?
Exactly.
Very elastic.
It is very elastic. Well, because it's one size fits most right now. But what happens is this wearable, it's worn by a penetrating partner, for example, a man, and it's worn at the base of a shaft. And it compresses.
It's put on the penis.
There you go.
Okay.
Not sure what language is appropriate here.
It's all appropriate.
It's worn on a penis.
Free speech television.
Yeah. Well, and then for those who are non-conforming, sexuality-wise, you can also put it on a toy as well, if need be. But what it does is it's worn at the base, and it compresses down like this to act like a buffer. And then, so you can control penetration depth. Yep.
I got you. You can,
And then what you can do.
So what's painful and not painful?
What's painful? Yeah, you can control. So what happens when a penis goes too deep into the pelvic floor? It can hit the rear wall of the vagina, and then for all of those complications that we talked about, there's either tension or pulling or localized pain. And what this does is it prevents that little bit at the end.
It's amazing. Something It looks simple, but it's not simple at all.
Yeah, though it's designed really well to feel
What
simple.
is this made of?
It's made of an FDA-approved blend so that you can use silicone lubrication with it. Because a lot of times silicone products, you can't use silicone lubrication,
Right,
but it's
right.
really important, especially for those who don't want disruption during sex. You know, if you're having a moment, if you're feeling
Yeah,
actually connected to your
absolutely.
partner, and then all of a sudden you need to throw on some more lube, it's like, well, hold the phone. Let's
Yeah.
take this thing out, pour some on. Whereas silicone lubrication lasts much longer.
Right.
So we adjusted the material accordingly.
How would this work for a man who's using a condom?
Great question. A condom goes on first,
Yes.
and then you put this on top of it, and it actually holds the condom on, which is pretty great because as this pushes down, it pushes down the little ring of the condom as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for a woman who's having painful sex, and if her partner was to use this, what's the results? Will it reduce it 50%, 25%?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it's different for every person that uses it. And I will tell, I mean, I can speak to the first time that I used it. And it wasn't this, I'll tell you that. It was in the very, very beginning when I just came up
Right.
with the concept of controlling the depth.
Okay.
There's so much.
I keep playing with this. I
No,
gotta
it's
put it
really fun to play with. I love it. What happens when sex is painful is it isn't just a physical experience. It's actually a
Okay.
deeply emotional one.
Of course.
And
of course.
especially when people aren't talking about it or doctors don't always have the answers, it's almost deemed as your problem instead of anyone
Failure.
else's. And so that physical pain is internalized as a character fault.
I got you.
And
Got you.
so when this works, you know, your question about how much pain does it reduce, it's a combination of actually of that pain reduction, but there's almost an emotional upheaval.
Psychological.
Yeah, because then you realize all of a sudden that it's not your fault,
Yeah.
that there's something that you can do about it, and that your body works, and that you can have sex and feel your body and feel your partner's body, and then you can let go of all of the narratives that are happening in your brain that you're not good enough, that you're not pleasing your partner. Like, you know, there's just so much self-doubt
Okay.
when sexual complications are involved.
Sure, absolutely. It's a complex topic that it has a lot of emotional components, psychological components.
Absolutely.
I love the name. You got to tell me about this name.
Yeah.
Tell the folks the name of this product.
So this, I love that you're excited about it too. You know, it's funny. It's called Ohnut, and it's
O-N-U-T.
O-H-N-U-T.
O-H-N-U-T.
Yep, O-H-N-U-T. And it started out as a donut. It's like the idea that there was a donut that you know, because as an individual piece it is round, and it just stuck from there. And it's the kind of thing where, because this is so hard to talk about, people would ask me the name and I would say Ohnut, and then they would laugh.
Yeah, there's the subtle little thing in there. It's just these little subtle sexual, message. Yeah.
Well, and the thing is that this is so hard to talk. Like, sex is hard to talk about, let alone this kind of sex. And so when you have these little icebreakers, when you have a tangible thing that can normalize the conversation, and then like this little lighthearted jumping off point, the conversation is entirely different.
Okay.
If this had like a pharmaceutical name, be like, oh, this is it becomes pathologizing.
Right, exactly. So, how did you come up with this? How did you come up with this?
So in my personal experience, I had discomfort during sex for my entire sexual adulthood, and asked my gynecologist routinely every year, you know, with hesitation, because I was like, oh, it's kind of uncomfortable. What do I do? And then the feedback was always on me. It was like, well, either use lubrication, or you need to relax more, or you need to, you know, change the dynamic in whatever way. And that
it was your fault.
That's what it felt like.
Yes.
Because there was no problem that they could define, and there was nothing for me to solve.
Well, that's the other thing I like about this. You flip the switch, because this is for males.
It is worn by a male partner, and you know, this idea of the condom, you know, before condoms existed, birth control was very much up to the female.
Yes.
As were STD prevention and when unwanted pregnancy happened, you either had surgery, abortion, or you had that pregnancy, and then all of a sudden the condom was invented, and it was this very simple, very accessible, wearable, essentially, that became the responsibility of the man.
Exactly.
And this is essentially doing that same thing.
I know.
And what happens when you do flip that switch is that there's a collaboration.
Got you.
Sex, so many of these solutions that are available to women right now are for the women to deal with by herself, for herself.
The male buys into it on a different level.
Because then they can have sex, or because sex feels good. Whereas a lot of the feedback we've been getting from men is that they enjoy sex so much more because their partner's having sex. It's their partner's enjoying it so much more. That validation, we don't recognize the amount of validation that people seek from sex.
Okay.
That's not physical. You don't just seek physical pleasure. You seek emotional validation, whether or not it's when you're in love or you're just, it's like a short-term event. But
okay. You came up with this idea. You had this idea in your head. And he says, I think I want to make a product, and I got an idea of my product. Where did you work? Why did you put it together? How did you get to this? From this idea, was it working at home? Was it working? How'd you get there?
Like what was the prototyping? So my background is not in product, it's not in business, it's not in anything, it's not in sexual health or health at all, but I had just lived with the problem for so long that when I came up with this idea, so I hacked together a prototype at home that was similar to this, but it was a single unit, and tried it out on my partner at the time, and when it worked, again, it was it was the physical relief and the emotional relief. And then all of a sudden, I had something I could talk about. Whereas I had never previously talked to any people in my life about the complication. Now, all of a sudden, I felt triumphant.
Yeah.
And this was something I was proud of.
It empowered you.
Yeah. And the second that you start a conversation from a place of ownership, it's received and returned with that same sentiment.
I got you.
And so from there, it was just prototyping, and people started calling, and doctors started calling to test it, and then I brought in an engineer, and there was a design process. And
how long was the development process in terms of time?
It probably could have happened faster, but because I had no experience with it, it took about a year.
A year.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm with the interesting question. You developed this product. Yeah, you developed this product, the Ohnut, testing it.
Yeah.
How did you go about finding people willing to test your product?
Yeah. So the first round was very much people I knew. It was friends, and then maybe one-off friends that potentially were interested, or maybe I had an inkling that there was a challenge, or. But from that, there were one or two people that gave such positive feedback that said that they had such a greater connection with their partner, such almost a life-changing sexual experience that the concept was proven. The proof of concept was there.
Yeah, I got
And then
you.
from that, I reached out to doctors. And then the doctors were like, okay, I have these people who might want to try it. So they pulled people into contact as well. And then before I knew it, we had a round of strangers, and there were people just kind of coming in to us asking.
You have a great video on your webpage with response of people who have used your product, the Ohnut. Let's take a look at the video, all right?
Yeah.
Let's roll it.
It feels like Muhammad Ali punching my cervix.
It's like my body constricts. There's a wall being hit.
Sharp shooting, stabbing, knife-like pain.
Like a knife inside me.
I just kind of thought like I wasn't getting it, or like I was just in my head.
Trying to convince myself I'm not in pain.
Is just like a gate
of hell.
For the longest time, I felt so alone in my experience with painful sex because doctors didn't want to help and I was too embarrassed to talk to friends, and we all know that the internet is the worst place to look for answers when it comes to this stuff.
Deep dyspareunia pain is more from the deeper muscles, and you can have trigger points, you can like taut muscle bands, you can have nerve irritation, certain conditions like endometriosis.
75% of women have painful sex in their lifetime. 75%.
It makes me feel so small.
It makes you feel like a failure.
It made me feel bad about myself.
It's going really well and then it goes really bad, but you don't really want to say anything.
A pattern of performing.
I feel guilt, you know, of course, because I feel like it's me that's doing it to you.
At one point in time, I came up with this idea to essentially create a customizability. So you can choose how deep he goes while also reinventing some positions. From there, with professional insights and a lot of prototyping over a year and a half in my kitchen, Ohnut took on a life of its own. Grab the key players. Your number one who makes life fun, some lubrication, and the Ohnut. Here's a little way to slip on a conversation. Ohnut is worn externally around the base of the male shaft, like a bumper. Scientifically designed with all bodies in mind, and patent-pending compression technology, Ohnut is also customizable.
As a pelvic pain specialist, one of the frustrating things for me and my patients is that it can sometimes take weeks and months of therapy to achieve pain-free sex. I think the Ohnut is a game changer. It's a non-hormonal, non-surgical, and affordable option for painful sex.
So instead of anticipating this, you can have uninterrupted, worryless sex where everybody wins. All of a sudden, I had permission to feel good.
It really has changed so much in my life, and my partner thanks you too.
It allowed us to try out these different depths.
How does it feel saying this out loud?
It feels really good. It feels really good.
When you support Ohnut, you're not only getting us through our first manufacturing run, you're supporting all the people who are waiting for this chance to speak up so that we can all connect in the way that we know we can. And take that leap to see what happens, because so much is waiting on the other side.
That's a good video, really good. Was the people in the video people you knew personally, or?
Some of them I knew, some of them I actually didn't know. So as positive as the response was for people to try the product, when I had asked them to be on camera, most people didn't want to say publicly what they were dealing with privately, which is the exact challenge that we're trying to address here, is that this is such a shared experience that we're at a deficit by not talking about it. So I put out the feelers to literally ask anybody who was having sex at all if they could help me out and be on camera. And the people that we heard back from showed up the day of filming and came out that they actually did have sexual complications.
Wow, wow. That's more than a coincidence.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about, is the response different for men versus women? Is there gender difference in this product, or even the acceptance, the willingness to try the product, or?
Yeah, it's been really heartwarming to see the response from the penetrating partners, from men, for example. They're really eager to learn, because
I love that term, penetrating partners.
You have to be gender sensitive now.
Right. Okay.
The perception is that, you know, well, the first question that we often get is, well, what's it like for the male partner? Everyone's so concerned what it's like for the male partner. And the feedback that we've been getting is that it's been positive, but also those who haven't tried it are so curious, because a lot of guys have had partners who've been in pain and they don't know what to do.
Right.
There's so little for us to do who have pain, let alone people who feel like they're causing it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing for them to fix or for them to even emotionally help with because it's so hard to grasp.
Yes, excuse me.
You know, a lot of times, like for me, for example, I didn't deem myself as like a victim, or I didn't want to be perceived as like being in pain. And so I just, you know, even if they had wanted to help, I didn't want them to help me. But now here's a really easy way for them to learn about what depths feel good, like how they can master not just what doesn't hurt, but how they can make it better as a collaborative effort.
How has the medical community responded to your product?
That has been probably one of the more surprising elements of this whole process, is that there are so many more complications that I didn't realize were there. Again, because like this whole learning curve has been new to me. And then, so there's cancer application for it. Endometriosis, I didn't realize how common endometriosis was. It's like 1 out of 10 women have it.
1 out of 10?
Yeah.
Wow.
Fibroids are extremely common.
Yeah.
You know, every woman who has a period has cysts. It's like,
really?
Yeah, they're not all painful, but all of the.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you have a period, they're called corpus luteal cysts. Everyone has them, and again, there's such stigma around having that. But the medical community in particular has been really interested in it because there's no side effects with this. It's not a medicine. It's not a surgery. You can use it at home. You can use it with your partner. It's multi-purpose. You can do other things with it. And the other thing is like,
durability.
Oh, it's great. I mean, hopefully you're not like, you know, like stretching it as far as possible every time. But real fast, to answer to your question, a lot of doctors don't talk about painful sex because there's nothing that they can do to fix it.
Okay.
And so this makes it really easy for them to talk about. It makes it easy for a patient to bring up. It makes it easy for a doctor, something simple for them to jump off of.
In many ways, this is a game changer. As large medical companies or corporations approach you or had an interest in this product?
Not necessarily. I mean, we've had several institutions, like a lot of cancer institutes have been really interested. A lot of research centers have been interested. A lot of endometriosis foundations, and there's different groups that just keep popping up. Even the transgender community for people who are post-operation, male to female. There's a lot of depth complications there. Just the application for it just keeps getting broader and broader.
So where is your company at this point? You develop a product, I assume you're marketing the product at this point?
Yeah, well, we launched on Kickstarter, as you saw.
Yeah.
And we just started shipping 2 days ago, which is wild because, you know, you go through the whole manufacturing process, the whole supply chain, you know, getting it from the place of origin to the United States and then distributing around the world. We've had 21 countries.
21?
Yeah.
Showed an interest?
Yeah, and then publications from all over the world and have popped up. And so it's, there's the medical application, like the medical interest, and then the mainstream. Urban Outfitters is interested as well.
Wow.
So like our motto right now is really changing the rules of sex so that we all feel closer.
Right.
By creating this new category that everyone can identify with.
This is a game changer.
We hope so. It's important to recognize that that we can self-empower.
Wow.
As a population, not just women.
Emily, time flies when you're having fun. But I would love to have you come back and have a conversation with you and see how far this product has gone and how your your company has developed. This is extremely interesting. It's a game changer, and I'm impressed, really impressed.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
Before we go, webpage. I need you to tell folks your webpage.
Thank you.
They can.
This guy. It's ohnut.co, ohnut.co. And there should be a discount at the current time. And if you have any questions, also we're on social media at Ohnut Co, OHNUTCO, and reach out to us at hello@ohnut.co anytime. Questions, stories, help, anything you need. You know, the idea here is that we're sharing as much of our stories as much as we are listening to them. So.
Well, I wish you the best, and I thank you for being on the show.
Of course. Thank you. And thank you for being so open to talk about this as well.
No, it's my pleasure.
It's really wonderful, you know, that we can reach such broad audiences. And yeah.
And thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's show. This episode, of course, will be posted on YouTube or Second Saturday TV with Alfonso Siverls. If you want to share it with other people, and please go to her webpage and share the information. Yeah. And I'll see you again on the next Second Saturday.